Hello and welcome to Game Soup! My name is Ed.
This is Joe, and we're talking about Hearthstone cards today. Whispers of the Old Gods is coming out in 2 days from this recording, and this video will probably be up the day before, the day of the release of Whispers of the Old Gods, and in this video we're going to be discussing our favorite 16 cards in the set.
16 cards. Yeah, you might say, why not 15, why not 20 or 10? The answer is because
it's cool that way.
16 is a cool number. So we each picked, I think 10 cards. We tried to pare it down a little bit.
Yeah, and we are talking about our matches, the cards that matched up together, and then a few extra cards.
Yeah.
We're just talking about a lot of the cards that we liked in the set. This isn't necessarily a list of the cards that we think are the best cards,
right, yeah.
But these are our favorite cards.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Yeah,
like, these are interesting cards, maybe powerful cards, and we're also going to be sticking to talking about Standard. We're not going to be talking too much about Arena or Wild because we don't want to make the video too much longer than it's going to be. So let's get on to our first card.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do it.
Forbidden Shaping.
Yay!
This is a priest card. It costs 0 mana, and it says spend all your mana, summon a random minion that costs that much, and it's an epic card.
So why don't you go ahead with your thoughts first, and then I'll interject about how much I love Priest.
This card has incredible versatility. That's pretty much what I'm going to say up front, and Priest decks, a lot of the time, especially a control priest, you're going to be lacking of having any threats in your hand. Some turns, you just want to drop a threat on the board. And in Priest, I find myself a lot of the time, especially control priest, like I said, sitting there with nothing to put on the board and lots of removal and light bombs and things like that in my hand. And nothing I can really do except for heal and pass.
Yep.
And Forbidden Shaping fills the role of putting a threat on the board at any point in the game. You could do it on turn 4, you could do it on turn 3, you could do it on turn 8, you can do it whenever you want.
Yeah, I don't think Priest has ever had, and this might even go for other classes, such a versatile minion, you know, or this is a spell in this case, but you know, it summons a minion of any cost. I think it's a really cool idea, and you know, if you look at the different costs for minions, there are a lot of like 7-drops that are just not great. I mean, that might change now, but you know, at least in the past, 7-drops were never that great to begin with. So just having the freedom to choose however much mana you want to spend and summon, like, you know, if you spent 10 mana, you would summon Cthulhu maybe, you know, or something insane like that, but you have total freedom.
Well, Cthulhu would be pretty bad.
Cthulhu would be pretty bad, yeah.
If you just summon him.
That was just an example.
6/6, but yeah.
But if you summoned, I don't know, what's another 10-drop?
Deathwing, you can get Deathwing.
Yeah, like any of the classic 10-drops. So, and then of course you could just play it on turn 1, and you might even get, like Shifter Xeris, which will come up later in this list, you know? But I think there's so much versatility, and I'm going to play it regardless if it sucks or not, but I don't think it's going to suck all that much. I think it's going to be fun. You know, I think it's for is it the Timmy player that just likes doing, like, zany, wacky stuff?
I think it's a little bit for everybody. I think it's, I think it's a little bit for everybody, actually. I think it's going to see play. I think it's going to be a solid, decent card. It's probably not going to be in every deck, but I think it's, I think Timmy, Johnny, and Spike are going to all be happy with this card. Call the Wild. This is a Spike card. I'll just take a quick minute to explain if you guys don't understand what Spike, Johnny, and Timmy is, because we were just throwing those terms around. Timmy, they're basically the 3 kinds of trading card game players. It was originated in Magic the Gathering, but it also applies to Hearthstone and pretty much every other trading card game. A Timmy player is generally a player that likes to have big effects, like big monsters, big minions, and they just enjoy having fun with the game. I used to be that kind of player when I was a kid. I started playing Magic when I was a kid, so that's Timmy. Then there's Johnny. Johnny he's not necessarily interested as much in winning as making crazy combos and making weird things happen. He's not as obsessed with just raw power or just big minions like a Timmy would be, but he likes to play with just weird cards that nobody else is playing and build decks, and they're generally the most creative players. And then there's Spikes. Spikes generally just want to win. They want the best cards, and Call of the Wild fits mostly a Spike kind of player. So Call of the Wild, it's an epic. It's a hunter-only card. It costs 8 mana, and it summons all 3 animal companions. So that's Huffer, Leok, and Misha. So this is basically 12/10 of stats for 8 mana, because Leok is going to buff each one of them by 1 power. And you're also going to buff whatever minions you already had on the board, if you had some. And 5 of that damage is going to be haste damage, charge damage. So this card is borderline overpowered, maybe overpowered, and it's going to be in every mid-range hunter deck.
Yeah.
possibly 2 of in every mid-range hunter deck. And I really like playing mid-range hunter. I know a lot of people don't like hunters, but I think a lot of the bad taste that people have for hunters is from the old days of face hunters when Undertaker was completely overpowered.
Right. Right.
And this might make mid-range hunter completely overpowered.
It does seem like it, doesn't it? I mean, it's really hard to imagine that when you're going to balance this card against all the others, you know, that this is somehow in line with the rest of the set. And I'm hoping that it'll play out like that. But it just seems you get 3 different bodies, so you're not just one target. You can't be removed easily, you know, at all, pretty much.
Yeah, 2 of them have 4 health. One of them has 4 health and protects the charge one that protects the weakest one.
Yeah.
The charge one that has only 2 health.
Like, getting charge and taunt.
So they all synergize very well together.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. But I'm pretty sure that mid-range hunter is going to make a big comeback. Not that it's been bad in the current meta, but I think it's going to be pretty huge.
Yeah.
Up.
Yeah, if I pull this card, I would put it into every deck, every hunter deck I could, because it seems like it'd be a lot of fun to play.
Yeah, anything except face hunter, pretty much, it's going to be in.
Next up, Power Word Tentacles. I mean, the only reason I picked this card is, well, 2 reasons. 1, it's got a ridiculous name, and 2, it's like Evelyn's Chosen, which is a card that I already like a whole lot and use in my priest deck. And you know, for a buff, the amount of health that you get on this buff is just crazy. Is absolutely crazy. You can play it on a 1-drop or a 2-drop, and you could have a pretty solid minion.
Right.
And I think one of the things I like about it the most is that I like to play like a 2-attack minion and then buff it with this card, for example, or you know, with any like +2 attack card. And then if you're playing against a priest, if you're doing a mirror match or something, then you have a minion that can't be taken down by a priest easily.
Yeah, 4 is generally priest's worst enemy.
Yeah, like
the number 4 attack.
Yeah, and I've done that in the past. I've played against a priest as a priest, and the 4 attack minions are always the ones that stay on the board the longest because there's really no counter. You know, so I'm looking forward to using this card a lot, even if it doesn't turn out to be that great, but I just think it's interesting.
Yeah, to be honest, I think it's a little bit understated for the cost, especially in what the standard meta is going to look like, but I could see maybe some applications in Wild, just because the stats are so crazy. I think if Divine Spirit wasn't a card, the stats on this card would probably be like +2, +8, or +3, +7, or something crazier.
Yeah.
The health boost would be a lot higher, but Divine Spirit kind of limits the design space there. But I think this card would shine the most on a card like Deathlord, and then you could put Divine Spirit on it.
Yep.
So that's basically a 3-card combo, but you would wind up basically doubling your life total because it would have 32 health.
That's insane.
So that would be pretty insane. And while they could silence it, it would suck because you're losing 2 cards, but you'll still have a 2/8 Deathlord, which costs you 3 mana. So you still have a card on the board, so you're basically only losing 2 cards, and they also don't get the free card that would drop from the Deathlord if they silence it. I still think Valen's Chosen is going to be the better choice in Wild in most cases, and this most likely won't see play, but there might be some goofy decks that wind up running it, and I still think it's an interesting and fun card just because the numbers are so high.
Yeah, I think Valen's Chosen is a more balanced card overall, but especially the cost here kind of makes it prohibitive.
Okay, and next up is Evolve. This is a Shaman-only card. It's rare. It costs 1 mana, and it says transform your minions into random minions that cost 1 more. So this card fits into probably my favorite kind of deck, or one of my favorite kinds of decks. It's a type of deck where you would swarm the board with mid-sized or maybe some smaller sized minions, and then use Bloodlust to finish them off at the end. So in a Shaman where you're putting where you can easily put totems on the board with your hero power, this is and you have 3 or more minions on the board pretty much. This is really going to give you a lot of value, and it's similar to Power of the Wild, the Druid card, where you can choose to give all your minions +1/+1, except that this overall, I haven't done the calculations, but I'm pretty sure this is going to give you more value than that in almost all cases. There's going to be a rare case where you're going to turn a totem or a 1-drop into a Doomsayer, but for the most part, I think you're going to get better value out of this card. Also, I saw a post on Reddit, so I'm not going to take full credit for this idea, but Onyxia plus Evolve, I think is going to be a really fun combo to play. Onyxia is one of my favorite legendaries, probably top 3 in the game. It never sees play, but it's just a really fun and neat kind of card.
So the idea would be to fill the board with 1/1s and then use Evolve?
Right, because Onyxia costs 9, Evolve costs 1, so on turn 10 you could feasibly do that. So you would have a 9-drop. No, you would have a 10-drop. Yeah, Onyxia would transform into a 10-drop, and then you would have a board full of 2-drops. There is an 8% chance, though, that one of those 2-drops in Standard is going to be a Doomsayer.
Oh, 8%?
Yeah, which is relatively high, but you're still only using 2 cards to do this combo, and having a Doomsayer on the board means that your opponent can't play any minions on their next turn.
True.
So it's not an entire loss. You don't lose the tempo of having the board, but you do lose 2 cards. So you definitely would lose value if you got the Doomsayer, but the chances are still only 8%. I definitely think this card's going to see a lot of play. Probably at least as a one-of in a lot of mid-range decks, if I had to guess. And I think Shaman has gotten a pretty good boost in this set.
And this is the kind of card that I would love to play. This is the kind of card that I get really excited for when I see it, even if I can't really work out exactly what the ramifications are going to be for it. Like you said, there was somebody did the math on Reddit about all the possible minions you could summon from this, and what the most effective way to do it would be. And of course, you're going to get the Doomsayer from time to time. You're going to get, a terrible result from this card. But I think it's just going to be a lot of fun. The magnitude of randomness that Hearthstone has seen recently, which I would never believe this if you told me this when GVG came out, because GVG was highly random, super random. There was a lot of RNG. This is even more so. I think the magnitude is increased, but I think it's done in a more interesting way. We've never seen cards like this before. And there's a couple others in this set as well. So I'm just really looking forward to seeing all the crazy Twitch, the VODs, and the YouTube videos of things that happen to other people, that either won them the game or just completely lost it for them. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to play. So
yeah, I think the RNG cards are an okay thing as long as there aren't too many of them that are highly competitive. Like this one is I think this one is going to be competitive.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think there's too many cards in the set that are gonna really ruin the standard format by being too random and being too frustrating to play with and against.
Yeah, if in reality this card turns out to be not that great for whatever, I can't even imagine a situation, but it's certainly it's very unpredictable, but that doesn't make it unplayable, I think. So next we have a Renounced Darkness. Replace your hero power and warlock cards with another classes. The cards cost 1 less. This is a 2-mana epic for warlocks, and this is another one of those cards when the first time I saw it, I was just really excited at all the possibilities. Anything can happen, and it's just, I've never seen a card like this. I mean, there's never been a card like this in Hearthstone at all. So even if it sucks, even if it's not exactly what you want it to be, it's going to be a lot of fun for I think, like you said, the Johnny player. The player just likes to do crazy things and just kind of see what happens. So I know that if I pull this card, I'm definitely going to be playing it just because it's insane.
Yeah, I'm not sure how competitive it's going to be without doing a bunch of math and making a bunch of spreadsheets. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah,
but
somebody did, but not us.
It's something that I'm going to like to see actually in action, and if I get 2 of it, I'm definitely going to be playing it a lot. And I do think that you're going to need to have 2 of this card if you're going to be building a deck around it, because you want to draw it as quickly as possible, because you're going to have to fill your deck up with warlock cards in order to make this valuable at all. And warlock hero specific cards are generally weaker than other hero cards just because their hero power is so much stronger than the other heroes. So you're going to want to probably run 2 and mulligan heavily to get them. I think this card is kind of similar to Elise in that it randomizes your deck in hand, except this is a lot quicker and easier to pull off. 2 mana up front, and then you get a discount on the rest of the cards in your deck. And yeah, it's a lot more, well, it's about the same randomness.
Okay, next, Fandral Staghelm. This is a 4-mana legendary druid card. Your choose 1 cards have both effects combined. So the major downside to the choose 1 mechanic is that you choose 1. So this card is giving you the best of both worlds. And of course it only works while this minion is alive, but if you can manage to get it to stick on the board, then all your minions are just that much more powerful. So I'm just really looking forward.
All your choose 1 cards are that much more powerful.
Yeah, all your choose 1 minions, yeah. So and there's plenty of those.
Yeah, this guy you're generally probably not going to want to play on turn 4. You're usually going to want to play him on a turn where you can also play a choose 1 spell to get a decent benefit from him, because a 4-mana 3/5 is generally not that good. Yeah,
it's going to get taken out if you play it on turn 4, and it's okay.
But if it does live, you could play a card like Wisps of the Old Gods. You know what this card is? It's a 7-mana, summon 7 Wisps, or give all your minions +2/+2. So if you've got this guy on the board, you get a board full of 3/3s.
Which is just like Rafam, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah. It's a better value than even Rafam's Mummy Army. So next up is Twin Emperor Veclor. So I kind of like this card, but I also kind of hate this card. So if Cthulhu decks are a thing, which I'm pretty sure at this point everybody thinks they're going to be, I think they're going to be, this card's going to be a must include in just about all of them. So I think that I like this card because of the power level, and I like the idea of the Cthulhu deck and how it's going to play. But I kind of hate this card because I thought that the Cthulhu deck was going to be something that would be a potential entry-level deck for new players, because they don't have a huge pool of cards, and the Cthulhu cards that we've seen so far, everybody's getting Cthulhu for free, and all the Cthulhu cards have been common and rare so far that we've seen, but now we have this legendary guy that is probably the best card that interacts with Cthulhu, and you're pretty much going to need this in most of the decks. So that I don't really like about it, but this is one of the only 2 legendaries that I know I'm going to be crafting if I don't get them in packs, without a doubt, for this set.
Yeah, I'm with you there on that one. I think it's a must craft. At least it's my opinion now. We'll have to see how it plays out. But
yeah, he's 2 4/6s for 7 mana. It's pretty unstoppable.
Yeah, and if you're playing Cthulhu deck, your Cthulhu is definitely going to have at least 10 attack by turn 7. I would say it's a very good chance. So this card just fits right into those decks.
WotOG Saran, Hope's End. He's 10 mana for a 7/5 Battlecry. Cast a random spell for each spell you've cast this game. Targets chosen randomly. So what can I say? Sometimes Hearthstone is a slot machine. This is another slot machine card. And I don't think this is going to be a particularly competitive card, but I think it'll be one of the ones that spawns some of the most crazy stories. So that's part of the reason why we play Hearthstone, is just for the goofiness of some of the stories that happen and the randomness.
Yeah,
I love randomness.
And Hearthstone certainly has a lot of it. Yeah, just the same along the lines of Renounce Darkness and Evolve. This card, there's already a simulator. Did you know? WotOG Saran simulator?
Yeah, I've seen that.
I've checked it out. It does some of the most hilarious things. And in fact, on the stream that was on April 21st when they spoiled the rest of the set, Ben Brode was there and he was laughing like a Ben Brode, how he laughs. Because of all the crazy things. I think WotOG Saran ended up killing itself at one point.
Yeah.
It's just hilarious. This is one of those cards that is just going to make for some of the funniest plays.
I should correct myself. I don't always love randomness. If it's very common in the meta and the randomness feels bad constantly because everybody's playing the same decks and the same random effects keep on screwing you over, that can feel bad. But this card, I don't think that's going to happen, because I don't think this card's going to see a huge amount of play, but I think it is going to see play from some clever players and just some players that are just trying to have fun. And I think this is the fun god of the 4 gods.
Yeah, and the fact that it is legendary kind of relegates it to people that want to craft it, or the few that are lucky enough to pull it. So next we have Shifter Xeris. It's a 1 mana 1/1. Each turn it's in your hand, transform it into a random minion. So Joe just informed me that Finley is the only other, I think, right?
I think so.
Yeah, the only other 1 mana legendary minion. And this one, oh my god, there's so much RNG, and I just love it. I love all the RNG that goes into this. It could be anything. Of course, the downside is that you have to be able to pay for it. So if you get, not Dr. Boom, but if you get Cthulhu on turn 4, you're kind of screwed. It doesn't really do anything for you. But just the possibilities, there's just so many cards, there's so many things it could be. It could win you a game, it could definitely lose you a game. I'm just really looking forward to seeing, again, all the crazy plays, and I don't know. I'll try to play it. I might even craft it just because of how shenanigans it is. It's just kind of nuts.
Again, it's an interesting random card that isn't overly powerful, so I don't see any problem with this being an RNG kind of card. I think it's going to be interesting, but definitely not powerful enough that it's going to be screwing everybody over constantly in the meta. So I think it's a good design. Next up is Zeril, the Poison Mind. He has Battlecry and Death Rattle. Add a random toxin card to your hand, and he's a 3/2. Rogue is probably my second most played class. I'm a little bit worried with the heavy nerfing of one of our best cards, Blade Flurry, and also we didn't get any new consistent weapon buffs or weapon cards, and so I think what I think Blizzard is trying to push is either a Death Rattle Rogue or a Miracle Rogue, which I'm happy with both of those kinds of decks. I enjoy playing both of those decks. So we'll see what happens. We're losing cards as far as the Death Rattle deck. We're losing cards like Nerubian Egg and Shredder, but they're getting replaced by similar cards like Undercity Huckster, which is a 2 mana card, and South Sea Squidface, which is a 4 mana card. I don't think they're quite as good as their older counterparts from Nax, but they're decent. And of course, we've got Zero here because he also has the Death Rattle effect. So Raptor is always going to have he's going to have a lot of valid targets still. And if you want to be greedy, you can run Karn. I've been playing with that. I've actually been playing a mid-range version of the Raptor Rogue deck, which we showed on this channel a couple months ago.
And how do you feel about the toxins here?
So they're all pretty solid cards, and they all work really well with Rogue in general, and with combo mechanics. Being the 1 mana cards, they're going to work really well with Miracle Rogue. So this card I can see being played in Miracle Rogue and Death Rattle Rogue, which are the 2 that I expect might wind up being competitive in the meta. So this card's going to fit in both. So Rogue being one of my favorite classes, this is for sure going to be a must craft for me.
Yeah, I'm just really looking forward to seeing. This is a super complex card. You have the legendary, the minion itself, and then you have all the toxin cards that go with it. And I really love the spare parts mechanic when that was introduced, and that led to some of the most fun games I ever had during that set. So I'm glad to see it come back in a slightly stronger, but also relegated to one class. So I think it'll be a good card. It'll be a lot of fun, and it'll give you a lot of options. I don't normally play Rogue all that much because I like to play Priest, because Priests steal things in Hearthstone, not Rogues, for some reason.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And also, Rogues don't have secrets, which I've complained about many times, but Paladins do.
Without questioning Blizzard's ideologies here and their motives and trying to understand them. I think it's a cool card, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see a good Rogue Legendary here. So our next card is Shadowcaster. It costs 5 mana, it's Rogue only, it's an epic, it's a 4/4, and it has Battlecry. Choose a friendly minion, add a 1/1 copy to your hand that costs 1. So the first thing that kind of jumps to mind is that this would work with the aforementioned Miracle Rogue deck. And I think I could foresee a play where you would play Gadgets and Auctioneer, do maybe some of your card draw shenanigans, and play Conceal. Then next turn, he becomes unconcealed, you play the Shadowcaster, copying your Gadget, and then you could probably play a couple more spells, doing your Gadgets and shenanigans, drawing some more cards, and then when they kill your Gadget, who's no longer concealed, the next turn you play a 1 mana Gadget, and you can play 9 mana worth of spells from your hand, possibly if you have that many by then, which you probably will because you've been drawing a lot of cards. So I could see this really drawing out the miracle part of the Miracle Rogue.
Great.
So yeah, everybody's gonna love that.
Yeah. I don't really have much to add on this card, other than I'm going to be raging when I see it played against me.
And some of the other good targets for it are going to be cards with good death rattles, which again is why I think the developers are pushing either a death rattle or a Miracle Rogue archetype. They're going to be a lot of the good targets would be something like Sylvanas, Karn, Wobbling Runts. Those are all good cards. Those are all cards that would be very good as 1/1 1-drops, just because their abilities are so powerful. Mm-hmm. Their death rattles are powerful. I think the reason why this card, I'm just speculating, the reason why this card might be 5 mana is because a lot of the most powerful effects that you can get from it are on 6 mana cards. So you would have to have the 6 mana minion live until the following turn, when you could play the Shadowcaster to get the 1/1 copy of it and get the ability. So I think that it's a pretty I think it's a balanced card. I hope it's a balanced card because I don't want to see it get nerfed. I really like it.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of other cards though that are viable. Undercity Huckster, South Sea Squidface, like we mentioned before, and of course Zero. And yeah, that's about it.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
Play it with Zero and fill your hand with toxins.
Next up is Thing from Below. He's a Shaman card. He costs 6 mana. He has Taunt. He's a 5/5, and he costs 1 less for each totem that you summon this game. So I really like this card, mostly because I really hate what Shaman has become. Shaman has become this aggro mess, this retarded deck that just about anybody can play. It takes no skill, and it's one of my 2 most hated decks in the history of Hearthstone. There's really only 2 decks that I despise in the history of Hearthstone, and the current Shaman deck is one of them, the current aggro Shaman deck. So I couldn't be happier with the cards that Shaman's getting in this set, because they promote what I think Shaman should be, which is a really solid mid-range class. And this card, it's going to give you a lot of value, because all you need to do is play 2 totems, and he becomes instantly an extremely valuable card. If you play more, you gain even more value from him. And it also counts cards like Mana Tide Totem, Totem Golem, and any other kind of totem you can play from your hand, as well as your hero power. So it's a really high value card, which fits in a mid-range Shaman deck. I couldn't be happier with this card.
Yeah, I think that you're always going to get good value out of this card, and that's not even including whatever later sets may come after this, before this gets rotated out. I'm sure there's going to be more totems in the future. So this card already is a great value, and I think it's only going to get better.
Yeah, it's comparable even to Belcher. We're losing Belcher, which you used to be able to play in every class, and Belcher is a pretty solid mid-range and control card, and Shaman is arguably getting a better card to replace Belcher with this Thing from Below.
Check out my Thing from Below. Next we have N'Zoth or N'Zoth the Corruptor. Battlecry. Summon your death rattle minions that died this game. So it's a 10 mana card, and its stats are 5/7. So if you like death rattle decks, which I enjoyed my death rattle deck back in the day, but those days are long gone, I think this could be a potential return to that. I think it could work really well in a deck like that. So I don't know. Of course, it's very expensive.
Yeah, this is only really going to work in a control deck, unfortunately. Yeah. But Yeah, I do like Death Rattle decks. Well, I liked Raptor Rogue basically, which was has been one of my favorite decks in the history of Hearthstone.
And just by the fact that this is a neutral card, there's going to be a million and one different decks that you could use it in with every single class. I think if you really wanted to, you could force it, and you could make a deck out of pretty much any class, and it could work to some degree. I think it could be viable.
Next up, we got Cyclopean Horror. He's an epic, he costs 4 mana, he's a 3/3, he has Taunt and Battle Cry. Gain +1 health for each enemy minion. So I think this is going to be a really good tool against Zoo. I don't think Zoo is going anywhere. Zoo's been in the game since the beginning, and while it's changed quite a bit, it's still the same type of deck at its core where it just fills the board with minions. And this is going to be really good against that. If they have a board with 6 minions on it, this is going to be able to hold those off for a turn while you set up your next play or figure out a way to remove the rest of their minions. And also having 3 as an attack kills a lot of the cards that are in Zoo, because they're generally smaller to mid-sized minions. It would also be really good against Secret Paladin and against any deck that plays Muster for Battle, but we're not going to be seeing that anymore because Muster for Battle is rotating out. So
darn.
This card might not see as much play as it would if it came out in the current meta that we have now. So that being said, maybe it'll see play in Wild, but we're not really talking about that here. So that's Cyclopean Horror.
Yeah, I think this card resembles Leela from Futurama.
So next up, we have Princess Huhuran.
Run.
So this is a hunter-only card. It costs 5 mana. It's a 6/5 and it has Battle Cry. Trigger a friendly minion's Death Rattle effect. So we lost Dr. Boom. I'm lamenting the loss of Dr. Boom. I know a lot of people are cheering, but I really like Dr. Boom. He gave me a lot of great RNG with those Boom bots. I have to say, I had more than my fair share of good luck with Dr. Boom. So I'm a little disappointed to see him go, but I'm excited that now whenever I'm playing mid-range hunter, I have him again. So this card, ideally, in most cases, I think, from what I've calculated myself, this is going to be played on turn 7 a lot of the time, because you're going to want to copy a card. The ideal card is probably going to be Savannah Highmane that you're going to be playing in mid-range hunter at least. You could also do Sylvanas. Sylvanas isn't always going to be seen play in that deck though, but you could also trigger the new card Infested Wolf, which is a 3/3 for 4 that when it death rattles, you summon 2/1/1 spiders. So you could, if you play this on turn 5 and you get 2/1/1 spiders, it's still a pretty huge amount of stats just for 5 mana. So that wolf may see play just because of this card, even though it's a little bit less powerful than something like, say, Savannah Highmane or Sylvanas, like I said before. But with an advantage that this has over Dr. Boom is that you're going to have mana left over if you play it on turn 7. So you're going to be able to do 2 damage to their face with your hero power, or you're going to be able to play another 2-drop or any other 2 mana card. So the drawback though is that this is going to require some kind of a setup to be at the same power level as the old Dr. Boom. So I'm hoping to get this card in a pact, but if this card winds up being viable, which I think it's going to be, I'm going to wind up crafting it, I think. So I've got a bunch of legendaries coming up to craft.
Yeah, do you remember all those Feigned Death decks that we saw recently? Yeah, everybody was playing them because they're really popular and effective.
It's a very good card.
It is a very good card.
Okay, so this is our last card. This is kind of our honorable mention. It's called Bloodhoof Brave. He's a warrior-only card. He costs 4 mana, and he's a 2/6 taunt with Enrage +3 attack. So the only reason I'm really including this card on the list is because I'm dying for a replacement for Deathbite. I'm pretty upset about the loss of Deathbite because it was an incredibly important card in my favorite deck, Control Warrior. So I'm kind of just scrambling to find something that's going to replace Deathbite, and I really don't want Control Warrior to die. I know a lot of people find Control Warrior to be annoying, but I really enjoy playing it. And I'm hoping, beyond hope, that this guy is going to be our replacement for Deathbite. So please, Bloodhoof Brave, save our deck.
Yeah, I didn't actually pick this card at all, but just looking at it, of course the stats are better than average here. And, having a taunt on a 6 health minion is pretty good for this cost especially. So, I don't know. It's common, so you're going to probably see it a lot, which is cool. So, it kind of reinforces the tankiness of warriors, and especially, like you say, Control Warriors are all about tanky, and armor and everything.
Yeah, he just doesn't do enough. Like Deathbite can remove a lot of minions easily. Just the 2 attack on this guy, he's going to do a similar effect just by holding back some minions for a few turns. But I worry that he's just not going to be able to kill them. You're going to need to carry some ways to do 1 damage to your own minion that you may not otherwise carry in a control deck.
Yeah, he might be a little bit
unfortunate.
He might be a little bit vulnerable to being played around with, like, for example, 2 two relatively weak minions, you know, just played in the correct order or something. And like you said, if you have to deal 1 damage to it to make it a 5/5, then it's just a 4 mana 5/5 in that case.
Right.
So it might not be as good as it looks initially, but I don't know. I guess that remains to be seen.
So that's been our top 16 favoritist Hearthstone Whispers the Old Gods cards on Game Soup.